For my second narrative critique, I'm critiquing Griffin Hester's picture. Um, First and foremost, the first question: how effectively does the artist use elements and principles of design slash photography in composing the image? So first off, I'm going to start off with the line because that's the first thing that comes to mind. Um, the artist really does a good job. Griffin really does a good job of creating line in this with his eyes and his hands. So the eyes are looking directly at the picture, and his hand or at the piece of paper, and his hands are looking like they're writing something on the piece of paper. So this immediately draws your attention on what exactly is he looking at. He was looking at the paper. And then this immediately transitions into emphasis. He completely puts an emphasis on what looks like a study guide that he's working on. Um, it's almost, other than he himself, it's the first thing that you look at when you kind of look at the picture. If I were to show this to anyone, I'm sure they'd say the same. When I first looked at this image, one of the first things that I looked at was that. What is he looking at? I was looking at the study guide. I'm not going to get into space right now, but as far as the weight, everything's kind of evenly distributed. It's almost like he's kind of, I wouldn't say evenly distributed. I'd say it almost looks like the picture is leaning towards you. You know, he's leaning in on the piece of paper, but the way that the picture is angled, he's more, it looks almost as if he's leaning in towards the person looking in the image. Especially with his arm leaning down, he's leaning on the table, kind of leaning forward, kind of leaning at you. The texture of the image, I really like. Obviously, this is taken in Willie T. I'm familiar with the area, so I really like the texture of the tables. It kind of really brings out the vibe of the old school library. Also, with his, it just makes it seem, obviously, all in all, it makes it seem like he is in the library or something of that nature. Also with the background, not the image in the background, but the tables in the background, the books, makes it seem like he is in a library. It also creates space. It does create space in a sense where you can kind of see things behind him, but the faded image kind of almost draws it in. It almost draws the space in. It makes it compact. So everything looks like it is close, it's condensed, but in reality, it also gives you that feel where it's open. He's studying, but the first thing that when I think of this, when I look at this image, is that it really does feel compact. It almost makes you feel like, he's in his own study table. Like there's a wall immediately where that picture and the image in the background is. Also, I really enjoy the fact that he faded away the image in the background. It kind of brings out, it brings an emphasis to that as well. Not just the study guide, but that as well. Because obviously, you see the image of him, and it makes everything looks like it's on him in the table, and it really brings out the emphasis of him studying, but at the same time, having that faded away paper, it really allows that emphasis to actually happen. So almost creating like a wall behind him, thus creating emphasis on the page behind him. The color really pops, putting that exam behind him, the paper behind him, really makes the colors pop. The navy in his and the shirt he's wearing, the wood especially, is what's popping out to me immediately. The color in that really brings out, the organic shapes in the image itself. He himself, the sweatshirt he's wearing, the table, the pencil, everything, it really brings in an organic feel to this. It also kind of brings almost like a movement, even though he's stagnant right there. It does look like he's writing, but nothing too crazy. So what is this image about? I really like this image because when I was looking through some of my classmates' images, I noticed that he, he started off with showing a failed test, and the pictures go through, and he's trying to study really hard. So this is an image of him going through a study guide, trying to study really hard, and it almost makes it seem like the exam in the background is what he's thinking. So kind of like that little bubble that comes up in cartoons of what somebody's thinking when they're not saying it out loud. That that's kind of like what's in the back of his mind. And I really think that makes this image really powerful, because he's grinding in the library, because you can tell with everything else that's going on, and in the back of his mind he has that exam with an A on it. I really think that makes this image even more powerful, having that in the background. I really like the effects that he used with that, which is why I don't necessarily know if I would change anything about this image. If I were to maybe add a little bit more colors on the study guide, I know the standard, it's just nitpicky at this point, but the standard is, people usually just use yellow highlighter. Maybe it's just because myself being a little anal, I use a lot of different colors when I highlight things. But I think that would help the study guide pop a little more, bring some color to that, make it live it up a little bit in a sense. Maybe change the color of the pencil to make it pop, maybe like a red pencil, something of that nature. Highlight that a little bit more. But all in all, other than those minor adjustments, I really do think that this is a powerful picture. It really brings out. It's easy to tell when you look at this image what's going on. He's working on a study guide. He's intensely looking at the study guide. He's working. He's writing, highlighting things. At the same time, what's going on in the back of his mind when he's doing all this is that bubble, that exam right behind him, and that image really displays that in a very good form. So, all in all, Griffin, great job. I really enjoyed this image.